I just had this morning, one of the ladies came in, because I am a notary as well, so their claim needed to be notarized. And, she could not stop hugging me because, I mean, she had a lot of money, over $9,000 that she knew nothing about. What it looked like to me was probably an overpayment of her mortgage,
Hmm.
but I couldn't be sure because she didn't recognize the name. Last week, one of the other ladies came in, and hers was like 3,700. So people are very apprehensive to look, but it doesn't take anything to look. We're
Yeah.
just looking up your name, and if there's something that matches, then you've got something there.
This is the Buried in Work podcast, where we share tips and interview experts to help you simplify estate planning and end of life tasks.
Lynn Hall is a nationally recognized leader in the field of unclaimed property. With more than 36 years of experience, she has helped shape the policies and practices that make it possible for people to recover lost or forgotten assets. She's currently the manager of Unclaimed Property Unit for the District of Columbia, DC, and Lynn has transformed that program. It's pretty neat. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Now, she's also a past executive board member of the National Association of Unclaimed Property Administrators, that's NAUPA, and she even was the recipient of the NAUPA President's Award. Lynn, it's great to have you here.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
So, when you think about unclaimed property, it's not something that everybody understands what that is. You've clearly made this a passion. You've been doing it for more than 3 decades, almost four now. Can you explain how you came into it, your background, why it's so meaningful for you?
Well, my background it was a little strange. I came in, actually, I was a field auditor for the state of Maryland, and I had gone in to help out a gentleman during legislative session. And he just so happened to be the manager of the Unclaimed Property Unit for Maryland. So I kind of just went in there to help him. But because of the legislative session being, a few weeks, 8 weeks or so, there were things for me to there weren't a lot for me to do, so I got into some other things, which was unclaimed property.
Hmm.
So then when we went through a little bit of a, reorganization, I was asked if I wanted to stay, and that was back in 1989 for the state of Maryland, and in 1993, I became the manager of that unit, and it has just transformed. When I came in, of course, I knew nothing about unclaimed property, just like a lot of people do. Knew nothing. And at that time, what I understood was, hey, they were paying some claims out and we get this property in. Property comes in, and everybody has to realize when you hear unclaimed property, it's not real estate, it's not boats. The only thing that we get intangible is items from safe deposit boxes
Hmm.
where someone hasn't paid the rent. Everything else is mostly money in the form of money. It could be savings accounts, it could be stock certificates, it could be insurance proceeds, it could be wages, commission checks. Anything that goes uncashed by an owner has to be reported to the state where that owner lives. I learned a lot. We developed a system in Maryland that was pretty robust. And then in 2013, I retired from the state of Maryland and I came on over to the DC unclaimed property. And there were a lot of things there that needed to be, worked on. So I believe DC now is one of the leaders in the nation as far as the program that we have. We've done a lot of good work. We do a lot of outreach and we pay a lot of claims. So I think that the development of the DC unclaimed property has really, taken us to the next level. It is a unique field. And if I didn't love what I do, I wouldn't have been here as long as I've been here and doing this.
And it sounds like DC is giving back a lot of money. In 2013, I saw a stat that it was 8.8 million, and in 2024, it rose to 35 million
5 million.
dollars.
Yeah.
Why did that happen? What have you done to increase the exposure? Why are people
So
suddenly
back
going after it? Yeah.
So back in 13, there were some programs that they were doing. They were doing paying their claims and they were doing and their reports coming in. We have done a lot of outreach. So what we do is our system now, we've got a fairly new system came in 2018, and it allows us to run those types of properties, as we call them, and everyone has a property. It develops into a claim. And it let us take those properties and do some matching programs with those properties, especially if they have Social Security numbers. We can go in there and we can use the credit bureau's matching process and be able to find that owner. So we've had a very robust program like that, and we actually back during COVID, even though we had started this program probably in 2018 once we got the new system in. When COVID hit, it made us even think a little bit differently. So we actually, because we were not in the office as much and people were not able to go file their claims or come into the office and put their claims in, we were actually we had a fast track program. So claims under $500, we were able to fast track and pay those without the claimant's interaction.
Hmm.
So that has been a process. We've kind of backed off from that part of mailing out checks directly, but we still do the front end of that, mailing out claims directly to the owners. We're not paying them directly, but we're mailing out checks to the owners. And to be honest with you, the reason we've stopped mailing out checks is that COVID also brought us, a bad actor out there, and that was a lot of fraud.
Hmm.
So we've had to trim back some of those processes to make sure that we're staying within, our what we're legally able to do. So we can't just pay out those claims now. We have to go through the process of making sure because somebody, even though we've got the right data, those checks could be cashed by somebody other than the owner. So we've done a lot. We do that. Plus, we've also increased our outreach. We do attend. I've been on a tour of senior centers or wellness centers in the
Hmm.
district, and my staff has been doing that as well, and they are very well received. We do our annual publication. So there's a list. We used to list all the names that were out there. Now we just say, call us or go on our website. We have a very good website that anyone can go out there and search for property. Holders can load their property to the website. Claimants can check their status of their claims on the website. So we have all of that now going on that we didn't have years ago.
But
We do a lot.
when you mentioned that you were becoming more proactive during COVID, are you creating searches on your own and reaching out proactively and saying, "Hey, we believe we're holding property that's yours," or is it a system that's only more optimized and transformational when somebody reaches out to you?
No, no, ours is reaching out to them directly. So what we do is with the system that we have, we're able to run list of Social Security numbers or even names, run a list of names. And then, like I said, we have resources available to us through the credit bureaus that we can find. We don't get the credit information, we just get the names and addresses, phone numbers, and we're able to tie in a social. So we actually take that information from our system, create a claim, and then mail that claim out directly to the claimant. So we are the ones on that end doing that. Now, claimants can come and do the same thing. They can go do a search
Hmm.
in our portal and then upload a claim. They can start and initiate their claim right on the portal and then load their documentation and send their claim in as well. But we have been doing those types of claims. And I think if I looked at the numbers and I thought I printed it out, but I didn't. But I think last year we mailed out, we initiated 49,000 claims.
Wow.
We didn't pay that many, but we initiated those. And those are ones we initiated.
Hmm. Can you walk us through what qualifies as an unclaimed property for a business when they have to turn it over to the state or to DC specifically? And then can you walk us through what happens when that property is turned over to your office?
So technically, anyone doing business in the district has a requirement to file unclaimed property reports. So what is filed? It's based on the owner's address. We would get mostly DC unclaimed property coming to us. So what happens is if a business is located in the district or if they have DC owners in their system and there's been no activity in that and the years run a little differently. Most property is after 3 years. Government agencies are 1 year. Money orders are 15 years. Traveler's checks are 7. It's just that property has a different timing on it. But if there's no activity, if it's a savings account and no one and typically the way savings accounts are now with so much debit and you don't have passbooks. Remember, and I come from a day when there were actually passbooks out there that people would take them into the bank and sign them and do all that. I've seen a lot of that over my years. Now that's not the transaction. Everything's statement form online. It's not as much of the savings accounts coming that are being inactive because people do run their debit cards, run all that. But it's after a period of inactivity. And in DC, it's 3 years. Same thing now, say deposit boxes are another area that we get quite a bit of property in. And I have a couple items I was going to show you that we got out of the safe deposit boxes. But that's the same thing. If someone has not paid the lease
Hmm.
on a safe deposit box for 3 years and the owner does not come forward, then those contents are sent to our office. Now
Where
we do
where is it
go ahead.
physically inventoried then? I mean, do you have
It's
an entire warehouse?
we have what we call our vault, and we keep these items in a vault. They are the same as they would be in the bank. There's a two badge system, a key system, all of that. We have security in place that those things are inventoried as soon as they come in. Then they are appraised. They're entered into our system, and usually that's through the portal. We do very little manual data entry anymore. Most of reports and everything come directly into our portal.
Hmm.
So when they come in, then they're inventoried, and that is by two-person. Everything we do is two people have to be involved in every transaction from those safe deposit boxes. Then they are appraised. So we have a certified appraiser that comes in, reviews our items, and then comes back and tells us, okay, this is the appraised value. And then from there, then they are then put out on auction. And right now we are currently using the site that's called Gov Deals. And there is a lot of state agency or DC agencies that also use that website.
Hmm.
So we are connected with them. So once that property is sold, that money then is 100% of it goes back into that owner's account for them to be able to claim.
So it's a process then where you receive the physical items from the safe deposit box, and are you endeavoring to turn those items into cash as quickly as possible? Or is there a waiting period for X amount of years or months before you then put it on GovDeals?
We actually have to hold it for a year. So we actively try to give it back. And one of the stories I think I was going to tell you was we've got savings bonds back there. And I have a staff of 3+ people that actually work the vault. And they found savings bonds that when they did their research, the owners were both deceased, but the pay on death person was not. So they tracked that person down and they had no idea that that property was there. So they contacted them. They came into the office and it amounted to over $10,000 worth in savings bonds that were back there.
That's real money.
So those types of things, we have what we call, we have two lists of things that we have to have everything inventory as soon as it comes in. And then we have the appraisal. Now we do the appraisal prior to, auctioning them off, but we do the appraisal appraisals are probably good for 6 months. So we do those because we want to, again, we have to be responsible for knowing what's in the vault, the value of what's in the vault. So
Mhm.
we don't wait too long to get things appraised, but we also want to make sure that once it's appraised, we don't wait too long to get it out on sale because it could
Mhm.
change in price. But we always try to give back. And we've had a lot of claimants that have come forward and made their claim on property. And we've been able to give it back. I got two items I'm going to show you, if that's okay, from the safe
Yeah, of
deposit boxes. Okay.
course.
So this is a bottle of Napoleon cognac. Now this came in a box, but of course we can't appraise it, we can't sell it, we can't do anything with it because of course we can't sell liquor.
Mhm.
But this is sitting back there in a box that belongs to an owner. So these are the types of things that you don't think might be in a box. You usually think that it's insurance policies and passbooks and coins, jewelry, but we actually have a bottle of cognac back there that has just been sitting on the books for a while.
So if that's been over a year, do you have a significant amount of non-monetary items that you can't sell that you're just holding on to?
Not really, not really. The thing that we do have a section in our vault that's called miscellaneous papers. Those are just
Mhm.
papers that we don't sell. But that is where we're able, when we dig through those papers, and we have done that, and we are currently in the process of redoing that again. When we dig through those papers, then we're able to find more detail than was actually on the inventory list from the bank. So we dig into those papers to find the owners.
It almost sounds like you guys are mini detectives in a way.
Well, we are. I have a very good staff back there that really is they love what they do as well, and they've been doing this for quite a few years. We've got one of our staff members has been with us, I want to say since 2016, and she has when there wasn't much of a inventory process or anything when we started this, and she has just taken it to the next level. There's nothing that she can't find, you know, and it's pretty cool. I got one more item I want to show you.
Yeah.
This is a miniature portrait. And I don't know if you know anything about that, but there was a gentleman, John Woods Dodge, in the 1800s that used to paint these portraits. He was out in New York, and eventually he moved to Tennessee. And
Mhm.
apparently, when the camera came about, his business probably dropped off a lot. But we have one of these miniature portraits in the vault. I'll be honest with you, I don't know that it's been appraised
Tho those are
because
worth
it
sometimes several $1,000s each.
but they also could have historic value, in
Mhm.
which case we would then, send it to the museum because the Smithsonian has a few of these portraits down there. So we're waiting for our appraiser to appraise this and tell us, is it just historic value? And then we can make contact with, one of the museums. It's kind of funny because we do have, some items that we think are historic.
Mhm.
I think we had a birth announcement from JFK Jr. We thought were historic items. Now and that was just in somebody else's box, so we can't really give that away. It's just papers due to them. But I mean, we do have some neat things. This area, DC draws a lot of neat things because of the employment here and the president and all those and the
Mhm.
Congress and everything that's here. So we do come across some neat items in our safe deposit boxes
I imagine it ranges anything from children's teeth to military medals and everything in between.
and diapers.
And diapers, really? Wow.
Yeah, yeah, we've had one. It was clean, but we've had one, and it's yeah. We actually have a box of bricks back there, and that was there before I came. We don't know the significance of it, but there's nothing we can do with it. And then we had a couple of fake gold bars
Mhm.
that we thought were going to be worth something. There is so much in unclaimed property, whether it be safe
Uh-huh.
deposit boxes, whether there's claimants, or just the other items that we do. There's never the same day. You always it's not one of these groundhog. You're reliving something.
Yep.
Every day is different in
It
unclaimed
sounds
property.
exciting. And
It is.
has your team ever considered tapping the general public for help looking into where something may have originated from, or is there a legal reason that it has to be done only by your office?
Well, no, there are air finders out there. And in our office, a few years ago when we put in a new statute, it's called RUPA, which is the Revised Uniform Unclaimed Property Act of 2021. Air finders were not able to charge over a certain dollar amount, which kind of, and it also took away their capability of getting a full list of items, of owners. We have to worry about privacy. We have to worry about fraud, especially since COVID.
Mhm.
So it really did kind of, take out the air finders. But yes, there are air finders out there that, conduct a business and they charge owners for their property.
Now, that sounds like an individual would engage the air finder, but how about from the other side where your office goes, "We have this item, we're having trouble tracking it down. General public, can you help us figure this out?"
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, I think we have enough resources,
Mhm.
because we do, like I said, we use the credit bureaus. We have access to our income tax files if we have to find current information. So I think, no, we have not done that, but that's not to say that, I mean, I don't wanna say that we would because I think we have the resources and we have to be careful.
Mhm.
We follow the statute and we follow internal controls and things like that. So we have to be very careful. And I think we have enough that we do that we pretty much cover all.
Okay. Now for someone that says, "Oh, I don't need to check unclaimed property. I'm not wealthy." How would you respond to that question or statement?
You always need to check. A couple weeks ago, we've been doing a lot of the wellness centers, senior centers in the district. So I was down at a wellness center called Model Cities. And the first day and I was there for 3 hours. And I think the first day I only had maybe about 35 people, but that's a lot for a senior center. And it was about $10,000. And everybody that came up says, I know I don't have anything. Well, I must have printed out 35 claims, even if it's a few dollars. And then 2 weeks ago, I went back and it was a different day, so there was a different group of people in the senior center. They were the ones doing the aerobics, the line dancing, the shooting pool.
Mhm.
They were a very active bunch. I did almost 50 inquiries, and that totaled over $18,000 in claims. And this I just had this morning, one of the ladies came in, because I am a notary as well, so their claim needed to be notarized. And, she could not stop hugging me because, I mean, she had a lot of money, over $9,000 that she knew nothing about. What it looked like to me was probably an overpayment of her mortgage,
Mhm.
but I couldn't be sure because she didn't recognize the name. Last week, one of the other ladies came in and hers was like 3,700. So people are very apprehensive to look, but it doesn't take anything to look. We're
Yeah.
just looking up your name, and if there's something that matches, then you've got something there. So,
So
yeah, they're very apprehensive.
I love searching. I found unclaimed property actually in DC before for myself, for my father, for friends, for family in various states as well. One thing that would make my life a lot easier, instead of me having to go in and do the same exact search every single time, it would be great if there was a feature or functionality where I put my name in, and anytime a new property that hits that name is entered into the system, I would get notified. Is that something that's possible or in the works?
It's not in the works. I'm not saying it's not possible. I think what would have to happen is that the portal would have to be beefed up, not just to have your name, but actually have some other components there to make sure that we are actually sending out claims to that person. You know what I'm saying? You can go out there and search
Mhm.
now, but I think for it to be even more robust, it would require more information from the owners to input that. But no, I'm not saying that that's not out of the question. We've got a couple of programs on our plate that we're looking to do in the future. So that may be something we can talk to our vendor that runs our
Mhm.
system about how we could do that. That it would just come up. Now, one of the things that we are looking to do, though, and maybe this would kind of tie into that, is we've already started working with asking for quotes from two vendors that would take our data file and run it against LexisNexis,
Mhm.
and also the other credit bureaus, and give us a file back of all of those matches where that it would just be a data dump. And then in which case, we would then send out a letter to that address that's in that data dump and say, "You have unclaimed property. You need to contact us." Again, we're very we Adam, we've gotta be very careful of fraud, We've gotta
Absolutely.
be so we wanna do, the best we can do, but we also have to be very careful that we're not opening ourselves up to being too relaxed, and
Mhm.
that the risk factor we take out the risk factors. So we are looking at this data match, and that may be something that is, similar to kind of what you're looking at, but not putting it back on us and not on the owner to do all of that.
Yeah.
But um, that's something I can think about, and we
Yeah.
can we can talk to our vendor about,
Yeah.
how can we do that? What can go in place in the portal that would say, okay, I know I've got the right person.
I think that the happy medium, which might be neat, is not notifying individuals that their claim is identified for them, but rather, hey, something has met this query. You still have to go through all the normal processes. We still have to verify all it's done is met a criteria that you set in the database, and it runs once a week, once a month, and they get an email if something matches, and then it goes through the normal process. But
Yeah, I mean, it's something we need to talk.
yeah,
We can talk to our vendor about.
could be neat. Could be neat.
We just have to. I think our biggest thing right now, and one of the challenges that we have right now, is that we've actually had to create our own fraud unit
Mhm.
within our office, because it has just taken over nationwide.
Wow.
And it's hit unclaimed property, and it's hit it, not so much DC, but it has hit unclaimed property. And it's a national crisis, really. And, we just can't be too relaxed. You can't just, as much as I want to give money back, don't get me wrong. That is my goal, is to give money back. We have to do it the right way.
No,
And we
absolutely.
have to make sure that we've dotted every I and we've crossed every T before we do it.
Your office is the fiduciary of those funds, and the last thing you want to do is give it to somebody who's not entitled to it. All right, Lynn, this has been absolutely fantastic. If people want to learn more about unclaimed property in DC, where can they go to find out and search?
They can go DC, find my unclaimed property.
All
And
right.
it'll pop right up. In fact, I thought I had my, website up behind my backdrop, but realized when it changed to your site, it dropped my website.
That's all right. We'll get it
But
in the
yep,
show
just
notes.
yep, DC, find your unclaimed property, and you'll be able to do searches. Holders will be able to report. You'll learn all about unclaimed property. But this has been great. Thank you so much, Adam. I appreciate it.
Lynn, thanks for joining us. And for everybody else that is listening, we also have a Find Unclaimed Property information hub on the Buried in Work website where you can get information related to DC, all the other states, the federal databases as well. And we'll talk to you on the next podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Buried in Work podcast. Remember, you can save 10% on our estate preparation package and games with code podcast10 at buriedinwork.com.